Willkommen zum aktuellen Gold Invest Exklusiv-Interview mit Nova Minerals. Wir sprechen heute mit Christopher Gerteisen, der als General Manager für das spannende Goldprojekt Estelle des Unternehmens in Alaska verantwortlich ist. Herr Gerteisen wird uns einen etwas tieferen Einblick in das Estelle-Projekt geben, aber auch über andere Projekte von Nova Minerals sprechen. Willkommen, Christopher.
Hello, Bjorn. Good to be here with you today. Thanks for having us.
Always welcome. Christopher, it's good to speak to you in person after we communicated per email. This is our first interview, though, so please give us a short overview of your background.
Ja, ich bin Geologe bei Beruf. Also, ich habe schon viel gearbeitet in Projekte, meistens Gold und Kupfer, in Nevada, Nordamerika, Alaska, auch dann in Australien, Westaustralien und Südostasien, Laos, Thailand, Indonesien. Aber Projekte, meine Spezialität ist Projekte von Erkundung bis zu Produktion bringen. Aber ich bin aus Alaska. Und das geht gut mit unser Estelle Gold-Projekt, weil das ist unser Flagship und ich bin hier mein Heim ist jetzt hier. Also das ist ein bisschen Deutsch und dann können wir jetzt Englisch machen, Björn. Danke.
Okay, we switch over to English.
Okay.
Well, as I told you earlier, a lot of our followers already know about Nova Minerals, but for those who don't, and as a reminder for the rest of us, could you please give us an overview of the company and its projects, a couple of sentences?
Yes, right. So as I mentioned, the Estelle Gold Project is in Alaska, and it's in the Tintina Gold Province, which has been one of the hottest belts for discovery and also recent production in recent years. Some of the other big projects that you've heard about in the news as of late has been the Victoria Gold Dublin Gulch project on the Yukon side, and that recently had a gold pour, their first gold pour, I believe, just last week. Also, Kinross Gold has the Fort Knox project near Fairbanks. The Pogo mine was recently taken over by Northern Star, an Australian company. They've been quite successful in ramping that mine up and turning it around. And also another project I should point out is the Donlin Creek project, which is Barrick Gold. That's a 45 million ounce deposit there, also on track to be developed. Now, so this is basically our neighborhood. 10 million plus ounce districts are not uncommon, and that's basically what we're looking at for the Estelle Gold project.
Okay.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. If I just zoom in, so that's the regional picture, the Tintina Gold Belt. If I just zoom into to our Estelle Gold project, we have 120 square kilometers right now in our tenement holding out there. Not only do we have the Oxide Korbel prospect, where we recently reported a resource of 2.5 million ounces. But in addition to that, and we'll go into more detail with that here in a little bit, but in addition to that, I should point out that across the tenement, we have over 15 other known prospects and mineral occurrences at various stages of advancement that we'll be continuing to follow up here in the upcoming season. And of those, I should point out there's the Shoe Shine project, which where we got did a lot of mapping and have some rock chips out there up to 113 grams per ton. Also down to the south of the tenement package is the RPM prospect, and there's a historical drill hole there which we resampled and re-assayed just to confirm the results. And there was over 180 meters at 0.8 grams, including 120 meters at over a gram. In that drill hole, so that's something else we want to follow up. Now the whole area there is at the Oxide Korbel prospect to the north, where we have the 2.5 million ounce resource. That's an IRGS style deposit, intrusive related gold system. and that's very similar to Dublin Gulch and Fort Knox. The rocks are the same. They look exactly the same. If you compare the mineralization that we have with the mineralization that's at Fort Knox and Dublin Gulch, it's exactly the same rock type, the same unit really. And so we have that IRGS in the north. Then also other styles of mineralization converge on the property. To the east, we have porphyry copper gold mineralization. There's a project there, the Whistler project, which is 10 million ounces of gold. And then to the south, there's an epithermal style project, epithermal style mineralization. It's a million ounces there. The epithermal style mineralization is known for its bonanza grades, 100, 200 grams per ton. And that's probably what we think we're starting to see there at the Shoeshine prospect. And so all these different styles of mineralization converge on the Estelle project area, and we're very excited about that. And so there's in addition to Oxide Korbel, the point there is there's plenty of upside that we'll be focusing on in the season and indeed the years to come. I just want to zoom into the Oxide Korbel prospect, which is where, again, we just reported the 2.5 million ounce inferred resource. At that prospect, we had quite a bit of historical drilling there with very impressive results, very long, continuous intercepts of mineralization. One of the highlights there would be one drill hole, over 400 meters of a gram per ton. In addition to that data, we also did some ground geophysics there, and the IP chargeability was a very useful tool in terms of targeting the mineralization. And so we did an IP ground survey, and with that survey, what we found were very discrete anomalous zones that we called target A, target B, target C, and target D. And it also, if you look at the geophysical map, the anomalies are open to the north and to the south. But for the time being, with the data that we have, the resource was defined over target A and target B. And so when in future work, we plan to also go to target C and target D. And if it's any indication, if target A and target B are any indication, we're very optimistic that we'll be able to basically double the resource out there. So in addition to going and starting to drill target C and target D, we'll also be infill drilling and drilling to depth at target A and target B to start to prove up the resource. Because as I said, right now it's an inferred resource, and in the phases of drilling to come, we plan to bring that up to measured indicated category in order to start to work on our economic studies to start to put in some numbers. Now, if you look at a cross section of the drilling, you'll see that the historical holes were much deeper, a lot deeper, 400 meters some of them, and then the RC drilling that we did, where with the RC rig we could only get down to maximum depth about 140, 150 meters, but on average 100, 120 meters. And so the drilling that we did to complete this, to calculate the 2.5 million ounce resource was still quite shallow, but the drilling remains wide open at depth. So if you look at a section and plan all around at the Oxide Korbel prospect, the mineralization is wide open at depth, along strike, and also we're finding now outside of the intrusive. And so the initial model was that the mineralization was mainly in the intrusive, but typical of, actually, if you do a bit of research, typical of these other style IRGS style deposits, mineralization also extends into the country rock, and we're finding that as well. So the point there is mineralization wide open, which we intend to infill and upgrade and expand our resource. If you look at the resource table with our 2.5 million ounces, what we have there is basically over 180 million tons at 0.44 grams per ton. And with these style of deposits, so we reported that at a 0.18 cutoff. So some, especially in the Australian market, people have asked about reporting at those low cutoffs. Well, you have to understand that with the IRGS style deposits and mineralization, these projects, these are low cost, bulk mineable projects. Mineralization is from the surface. There's a very low strip ratio, less than 1-to-1 typically in these deposits. You know, we're talking a 20, 30-year mine life on these things. And so it's a very simple process in certain terms. The production cost is very low. There's no complex crushing and grinding and chemistry involved. It's basically, like as I said, it's a heap leach operation. You dig it up, put it on the heap leach using the proven cold climate heap leach technology that's available nowadays. And basically, this allows you to mine material at quite a low cutoff, and it becomes economic at quite a low cutoff, which is exactly what they're finding at similar projects in Dublin Gulch and Kinross's Fort Knox. And so, as I said, these are low cutoff, bulk tonnage type projects. It just becomes a logistical engineering exercise. You dig it up and put it on the leach pad, and the gold flows, and the gold flows. Very low cost in the $600 to $800 all-in sustaining cost range. So you can see why very low cutoff materials becomes economic.
Especially at $1,500 gold or higher.
Right, right. So, you know, with the upside in the gold price that we're seeing now, you can start to see that basically these operations can start to really print the money. So that's what we're dealing with, and that's key to understanding why the resources are reported at a relatively lower cutoff than you see in some of the typical high, narrow vein, high grade deposits around the world. And so, but nevertheless, even if you look at the higher cutoffs, at a 0.6 or 0.7 cutoff, we still have 1 million grams with an average head grade of a gram per ton. So we could report at that level, but that is not, in comparison to our peers, that's why we report at that cutoff level. In fact, if you look at a table of the mine comparisons, you can see that Fort Knox actually reports its resources at a 0.1 cutoff, and their head grade is 0.33. So you can see how low the cutoff can get and still have a material that's economic. Also, Dublin Gulch, I can get this straight off their website. They reported a 0.15 cutoff, and their head grade is 0.6. So we're in the ballpark there. As I said, that's in comparison. We're just in comparison with our peers in that regard. If you look at a table of some of the projects that I mentioned in the Tintina Gold Province, you look at a table of some of the more significant projects, you can see that we're in the top 10 of in terms of size of the resource with our 2.5 million ounces. And with the type of and the plans that we have in the upcoming season, we plan to move up in that table, and our resource becomes much larger, because as I said, 10 million plus ounce districts are not uncommon. So, and in addition to the IRGS style mineralization that we're getting at Oxide Korbel, we'll also be focusing on that epithermal and potentially the porphyry style mineralization in a tenement area to the south. So all that will add up, we believe, to a very significant gold district at Estelle. And so our plans are to, again, just in summary for the work plan, is to go back to Oxide Korbel, where we have the current 2.5 million ounce resource, infill drill to depth to prove up and expand the resource there, and also go to target C and D to expand the resource and upgrade the resource out in those areas to hopefully, and we believe, to double the resource in the 5 million ounce range. Then also more exploratory work down at the Shoeshine prospect to follow up the 113 grams per ton epithermal style mineralization, and also down to the RPM prospect to the south, where we got that 120 meters at 1 gram per ton. So that's our plan. And I should say that the normal thinking for some people that might be that the work will not commence, the next phase of drilling will not commence until next summer. That is not the case. Working over the winter to bring in our camp and also to begin RC drilling. We have track mounted rigs, and we use the snowcats to get in there. So continue over the winter months as well. We're in the planning and permitting stage of that now, and so in the new year, there'll begin to be news flow of the work that we're doing out there on the ground. So that's the Estelle Gold Project in a nutshell.
Well, it's quite a big nutshell already. We've got some very nice information there. Let me get back to something you said earlier. You talked about, I think it's 15 target areas overall on the whole of the project. So to recap, we've been talking about Oxide Korbel, where you've got zones A and B, where the first resource, the initial resource is, C and B, where you're going to go next, in addition to infill drilling zones A and B. And then you have 2 prospects lined up where you already have some good information, historical data. And then there's still 12 other prospects left, right?
Correct. And so the shoeshine and RPM prospects are the kind of more advanced exploration stages where we hope to do some drilling and actually define some resources that we can report as well. But in addition to that, and I didn't mention, we also have geological teams to begin the mapping, rock chip sampling, and the type of early groundwork that's required to start to define some targets for drilling coming up here. Maybe later in next year, we can start to drill some of those other prospects. But for now, yeah, we'll get out there, we'll do the geological mapping. Probably because the IP chargeability has been so effective, it's an effective tool. We'll have the team out there all summer, and we'll probably run a few lines over those additional prospects as well. But the Oxide Korbel area where that resource is now will be our primary focus, really. And A, B, C, and D, all those targets, they're all the same system there. So eventually, that mineralization could all come together into one giant super pit type scenario when it comes to development, right? So those are all it's all the same system there. So we're looking at some kind of a super pit scenario in the future.
Okay, thank you. Now we've been talking about Estelle. That's not the only gold project Nova is involved in. You've got the Officer Hill project where you're joint venturing with the Newmont Gold Corp. I think Newmont has 70% and is the operator. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Right. Yes. In the past, we always kind of called this Officer Hill JV a non-core asset. Although now it's really starting to impress. I recently spent some time with the Newmont Gold Corp team, going over their recent phase 2 drilling that they just completed. And I should mention results on that are pending. We're looking at probably October, or that the results for that phase 2 drilling will be coming out. So it's some exciting news there, I believe. But when I spent some time with the Newmont Gold Corp team, they basically have the same geological elements there as their Cali mine to the north. So the Cali mine is, I believe, a 20 million ounce gold mine at this stage. We're in the Tanami region, a proven gold producing region in Australia. And initially, with the JV, Newmont said, okay, we're going to do phase 1 drilling, and if we're not impressed after that, we'll drop the project. Well, now they've gone to phase 2, results pending, and they've already planned phase 3 drilling. And so that's really coming up in the ranks in terms of their prospects and their priorities for their exploration and development, resource development programs in the area. So we're quite excited about that. As I said, very similar target to the 20 million ounce Cali mine, and very important for Nova Minerals because this gives us a project in Australia, in the proven Tanami region, and also associated with the Newmont Gold Corp and the 20 million ounce Cali mine. So we're very excited about it, and there's some exciting results to look out for that are coming through in the news flow.
So we'll be looking at the gold news flow, so to speak, from 2 projects there over the coming weeks and months. And then let's talk briefly about the 3rd project that's called the Thompson Brothers, which is a lithium project, which is, I think, operated by Snow Lake Resources, which is controlled by Nova Minerals at the moment, which was supposed to go to on the market, but the company decided, okay, we'll use the funds that will be tied up with bringing it with the listing for developing the project further, because there's a really possible short path to first revenue or revenue generation. Can you please tell us about that?
Correct. You know, the projects that we just spoke about, the gold projects, Estelle, Officer Hill, those are our growth projects. Now, if we talk about the lithium project in Manitoba, Canada, that's our Thompson Brothers Lithium, as you said, run by Snow Lake Resources, a majority-owned company of Nova. And this is our cash flow project. It's cash flow ready. And the situation there, we've been quite active out there, but just to the south of the Thompson Brothers Lithium project is the Tanko mine. And this is a significant operation. It was recently taken over by Sinomine, which is a Chinese conglomerate, and they're into the battery. They have battery factories. Basically, they make lithium carbonate, lithium hydroxide in China. And if you know anything about the Chinese, they're really pushing the electric vehicle, and for them, it's not about saving the world, really. It's about just being able to live. And so the people and the government there are really pushing electric vehicles because, you know, the smog problems that you get in these cities. And so regardless of the market fluctuations, the fundamentals are very strong for lithium because China is growing by leaps and bounds in terms of their electric vehicle market. And so Sinomine has basically dispatched their people around the world to find lithium concentrate, lithium resources. One of these arms is going into Canada with Sinomine Canada, and they recently purchased the Tanko mine. Now, the Tanko mine is a historic operation that's produced one of the most significant historically producers of tantalum. Also, they don't produce tantalum anymore. Also, cesium formate, the only producer of cesium formate, which is the only product that they currently produce. And also in the past, they produced lithium concentrate. Well, so Sinomine took over the project. They have a lithium flotation plant, a lithium concentrator there at the mine. And the intention of purchasing the project was to get the lithium concentrator back up and running. Problem is, they have no ore. And enter our project. But they're, you know, that was not a foolish move on their part. They're very well aware that Manitoba is quite rich and in pegmatites, LCT, lithium cesium, tantalum style pegmatites. But the only resource that's defined, so the only project that's to a stage where there is a resource over the area, and the resource that we've defined at our project is 8 million tons of 1.4% lithium. It's the only advanced project in the area. And we recently signed an MOU with the Tanko mine and Sinomine to supply them with lithium ore. And so I was basically with them just last week, and they said to me in so many words, give us a price, send us your ore. Send it to us now, we'll stockpile it even while we're working to start up our concentrator again. So they're very keen on the lithium ore to be able to concentrate it. This is ideal for us. Right up the road, right on the rail line, just up the road is our project. So we're right next to the rail line, which goes straight to the Tanko mine. It's basically an off-take agreement. We just dig the ore up, put it on the rail line, send it down to them. Very simple project. Cash flow ready. And we're working on that to bring that into production within the next year. And so that's the story out there. We're really excited about it.
I guess so. That's also, that would be very nice to have the cash flow from that to at least partially fund for further exploration at Estelle, and not always have to rely on the markets to get your funding for the next round of exploration. Let's keep our fingers crossed that all comes to fruition. Thank you for taking the time. It's been good to get some in-depth information, especially on Estelle. and we'll be sure to check in later to see how it all went. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bjorn. Hope to see you again soon.